So Metal Shop at Sebastian High School must seemingly fight every year to keep its funding. Will you vote to keep this elective program permanent going forward? What educational options would you support for students who want an alternative to college?
Hey, this question is very dear to my heart. Maybe a lot of people do not know about the Treasure Coast Technical College as part of the Indian River County School District. I sit on the advisory committee for the technical college. And as Jackie had indicated, it's a wonderful program. I'm a firm believer, and I'm very, obviously, if I sit on the advisory committee, I'm very supportive of all of their programs. We are also pushing forward to put in place a culinary program. And I think that you have to take a look at the welding program that they have. It's absolutely wonderful. I've toured it. Trying to find a good welder today, very difficult. And we're training people to do welding and to really learn a lot of the trades as well as nursing and other aspects of vocational or career and technical education. I am a very strong supporter of career and technical education. I think for far too long we've demonized vocational education and career and technical education, pushing kids into college that might have the aptitude for the technical area, different technical areas, vocational areas. So we push them into college, and we've taken away their opportunity. And I think we need to do more in the area of vocational education. I'm a strong supporter. I would support all of these programs. I was told that if I get a seat on the school board, I can't be on the committee anymore. But you know, I could work. I could be helpful in many other ways. Very interestingly, I'd like to tell a quick story about my friend Jerry Milladantry. When we were in high school, we graduated. I went to college, and he joined a company called Chromolite. Jerry was very mechanically inclined. We were always working on our cars together and so on. To make a long story short, he became the CEO of one of their subsidiaries. There's a multi-million-dollar home in Connecticut outside of Greenwich, I believe it is. And, well, that didn't quite happen for me. So he didn't go to college, and there are plenty of opportunities, and Lord knows that in our country, we need more people involved in manufacturing. We need to bring more manufacturing back to the United States. We need to have more people trained in the career and technical areas. So I'm a strong supporter of all of them.
All right. Florida statute and state board rules require all U.S. history materials shall be factual and accurate and teach in depth our nation's founding principles. They specifically prohibit the teaching of critical race theory, 1619 Project, BLM Marxists, and any other of their tentacles. What is your stand on critical race theory as well as social and emotional learning?
Okay. Teaching our children to judge each other by the color of their skin is horrific. In this whole woke era, by the way, I hate that word woke, just so you know. It's really dividing our children. It's dividing our country. And critical race theory and the way that it's presented should not be in our schools. Critical race theory is based on, if many of you already know, the essay that was written in the New York Times and called the 1619 Project. And I get into conversations with people, and I am a former educator, I'm a retired school superintendent, and as a result of that, I do get into discussions with a lot of people about this. And, you know, it's very interesting that when I talk to them, they haven't read the 1619 Project. I've read the 1619 Project. And so I'm able to have a debate with them or have a discussion with them about how inaccurate a lot of the history, the quote-unquote history that's being presented, how inaccurate it is. For example, the fact that one of the issues in the Revolutionary War was slavery, that's just not true. Okay, but that's being pushed in the 1619 Project. Slavery could not have been an issue in the Revolutionary War, and the basis for that, they indicate, was because England had outlawed slavery, and therefore that if the British would then outlaw slavery in the United States, in America at the time, or in the colonies. Well, that makes no sense because England was very active in the slave trade and through the islands, and they were making a lot of money. So it just didn't make any sense. It falls apart. And if you read the 1619 Project, a lot of the things that are presented are inaccurate. There are some accurate things in there, but most of it is inaccurate. It's revisionist history. And we have a law now that, we're not supposed to be teaching it, but we also have to keep an eye on critical race theory being presented in different ways, not being called critical race theory, but being called other things under the guise of other topics. Let's make sure that our kids respect one another, that they're not oppressed and oppressors, that they should not be judging their fellow students, their fellow friends, by the color of their skin or by their ethnic background. That's very, very important. And as a former superintendent, I'm horrified that this is taking place, and it's one of the reasons I'm sitting here.
All right, now we're on to question number 3. Jim, you're up. This is a hot topic. This is a topic we discuss on the TGI Now podcast a lot. So this is you're up first on this one. What steps should the board take to ensure our schools abide by Florida laws and statutes in place to protect children from exposure to inappropriate content such as sexual, explicit, pornographic, descriptive, and sexually emotional content, specifically as it pertains to school libraries, media centers, and supplemental instructional material, and or recommended reading lists?
Okay, this is an area that I've been very involved with in my career as an educator, as a superintendent, as a school principal, an assistant superintendent for business, and so on. I understand that there is a process for reviewing and vetting books. The current superintendent indicated that that process was not followed. We have to make sure that a vetting process, a review process, is in fact followed. And the only way that that can be done is, number one, to make sure that our school media specialists receive professional development and training so that they know how to do the vetting and the review. And how do you do that? Well, you have to be familiar with all of the great literature for children that is currently out there through different organizations and associations, like, for example, the John Newbery Award-winning books. There is so much good children's literature that should be on our library shelves, and really there's no room for anything that has any sexual explicit passages or pictures or whatever it may be. Totally inappropriate. So how do we monitor that? We monitor that by making sure that our administration reviews that process, makes sure that that process is being followed, that there have been meetings with the school media people, the librarians, as we also call them, to make sure that they're doing what they need to do to keep these books out in the first place. We shouldn't be talking about banning. They shouldn't be on the shelves to begin with, okay? And, my sense of it is that if you're sitting there as a school librarian, and I'm not saying that this happens, but it could, and you're just blindly ordering from some of these book companies without knowing what books are being, in fact, ordered, well, that's not really implementing the process in the way that it should be implemented. I've taken great efforts to be involved with this when I was a school administrator, when I was a superintendent, meeting with school librarians, also sending out recommendations for the types of literature that should be on our library shelves. And quite frankly, the vetting process has to be monitored. We have to make sure that school librarians are doing what they have to do, that we cannot violate the law. The law is the law, and we have to make sure that we abide by it and set an example for our teachers and all of our students that we do, in fact, respect and abide by the law. And it's another horrific issue and another reason why I'm here.
Since 2020, Parents have been refused access to children's educational materials, having lunch with their child at school, and being a guest in the child's classroom for a portion of the day. Parents used to be welcomed in the classroom upon request. What is your plan to return to pre-COVID protocols with regard to these examples?
Okay. Schools cannot be successful without the involvement of parents. Students cannot be successful without the involvement of parents. They are key critical to the educational process. And I find from my perspective and from my experience, this issue to be somewhat ironic. And the reason I say that is that if we go back to the early to mid-1990s, there was a hue and cry and a push for parents to be more involved in our schools. So much so that legislation in many states across the nation, legislation was passed requiring parents having meaningful input into the educational process. They were called shared decision-making meetings or committees, okay? And they went beyond just fundraising and things of that nature. They wanted parents to be involved with curriculum, with what was going on in the classroom in terms of instruction, every aspect of the school's activities and processes. And it turned out to be extremely valuable. At that time, as I wasn't a superintendent at that time, I was an assistant superintendent, I said, isn't it horrible that we actually have to pass laws to draw parents in and to ask them to come in and to require school districts to have these shared decision-making committees. It should be a natural process. Now, all of a sudden, the tables are turned, and there's all sorts of pushback, not only here in Indian River County, but across the nation, with parents not being shut out, with a lack of transparency, and with this divisiveness between, the school district and the parents. We need to all come together if our children are going to be successful in school. We need to all become partners and to have a school partnership with parents and community members, teachers, students, administrators, staff members. Everyone needs to come together in order to participate in the process, to have the right level of, or meaningful level, I should say, of input into the education of our children. And that is something that I pride myself in my reputation, that I always value the input of parents in the educational process. And I've had great relationships with PTAs and so on that have been so supportive, and I was so lucky to have that parental input. And it's where we need to go. Thank you.
Should county schools allow the gender identity of students dictate which bathroom, locker room, and shower facilities they use? Or should this be consistent with their biological sex? And then there's a follow-up question as well. Can you offer any solutions to resolve the issues that may come up regarding?
I agree with that. Boys should go to the boys' bathroom. Girls should go to the girls' bathroom. It should be based on the biological gender of the person. And as a school board member, the question came up, what can we do about it? As far as the school district is concerned, I do have a solution. I would propose a resolution, hopefully to be supported by the majority of the board, that we put a policy in place. This becomes a policy issue. And that the policy, in so many words, would say what I just said, that we rely on the biological gender of the student, and they will go to their respective, use their respective restrooms. Boys to the boys' room, girls to the girls' room. And once you have a policy in place, then the important thing is these school boards, they're charged with making policy. The administration is charged with making sure that those policies are implemented and followed. So that it would be up to the superintendent and the administration to make sure if that policy was put in place, that it's followed, that principals and assistant principals and teachers know what the policy is, and they have to follow the policy. And it's almost amazing to me that we're even talking about this, but it is an issue like many other issues that that we're dealing with. But my view is boys go to the boys' bathroom, girls go to the girls' bathroom based on the biological gender. And whatever happens in the outside of the school district becomes another issue. But as far as the school district is concerned, that would be the policy that I would recommend to the board. Not that I would recommend it, but I would basically propose it in the form of a motion that we put that policy in place, and we have administration prepare, along with legal, a policy that we can discuss and we can vote on and put in place, and then to make sure with follow-up that the policy is adhered to. And that's what I would do. That's the way it works. Okay.
All right. Question number 6. Are you for or against school-based health clinics that perform examination, provide immunization and medications, dispense birth control devices, and provide abortion referrals without written parental consent?
Another horrific issue. It's just amazing to me that we're dealing and we're talking about everything except student achievement. When are we ever going to get to that? But the fact of the matter is, I agree with Jackie. There is no place for that. We should have excellent referral services. We have many organizations in this county that can provide those services and help children that are in need of those services. I spent just a couple of weeks ago. I left the board of Treasure Coast Community Health. I was on that governing board of directors for a number of years, but I figured I needed more time to do this, so I left the board. As I said, it was only a couple of weeks ago. But through Treasure Coast Community Health, I'm familiar with a lot of the organizations, and there's so many of them, where we can have excellent referral services that families can be helped, but we shouldn't be, like Jackie said, we're not doctors. We shouldn't be doing this in our school district. And so that's my position on it. I would not want to see something like that continue in our schools.
What is the purpose of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the classroom setting? And the following question is, what is your thoughts on the House Bill 1557, Parental Rights in Education from 2022?
Again, as far as parental involvement in our schools, it's amazing to me that the doors have been closed and that we have this push and tug. I have always valued the input of parents, and we need to let them back in. We need to have them providing input and being involved in the educational process in meaningful ways. We can't teach our kids and improve student achievement, which we need to talk more about, as I said before, without the involvement of our parents. It needs to be a community partnership that involves all stakeholders. And what's disheartening to me in our school district is that doesn't appear to exist, that we're polarized, that we have parents on one side, we have the school district personnel on the other side. We need to come together if we're going to improve the learning, student learning in our schools, and if we're going to improve student achievement. It's essential that the whole question of equity and inclusion. What was that again, John?
Yeah,
equity,
inclusion in the classroom, diversity as well.
Well, I mean, diversity. I think we all agree that diversity is important. We live in a diverse society, and we need to learn to respect one another, to value one another, not just to tolerate one another, regardless of what your skin color is, or what your ethnic background is, or whether you're from Vero Beach or from New York. We need to value, that was a little joke, by the way. We need to value each other. And that's what we should be teaching our children. We should be teaching our children that everyone has a rightful place in this country. We all should be helping one another, supporting one another, not fighting with one another. Somebody had mentioned, I think it was Josh, mentioned about discipline. And, you know, one of the issues that we have in the school district is, you know, we've witnessed in the news many fights in the high schools and so on and so forth. And we have to take a good, hard, analytical look at restorative justice. And, you know, what role does that play? And is it being implemented in the way that it needs to be implemented? So we can have equity, we can have inclusion, but we all need to cooperate, we all need to come together as a community, all stakeholders, to support our children and to make sure that they develop into law-abiding citizens and that they improve their achievement. That to me is the most important thing.
First, as people leave here tonight, what would you like them to remember about you or take away as to why they should vote for you?
What do I want you to remember about me? I have a unique set of skills and experiences, and I'm here tonight and running for the school board because I think they could use my help. I'm beyond astonished about the issues that we're dealing with and the distraction of those issues from the real issues of how do we improve student learning, how do we improve student achievement, how do we bring our school district to the next level. I have a perspective as a parent, I have a perspective as a taxpayer, as a school board member, as a classroom teacher, as an assistant superintendent for finance. I've run the financial operations of the school district for quite a number of years before becoming a superintendent. Over 17 years as a school superintendent. I bring a unique set of skills and a unique set of experiences and perspectives that I think would be helpful in resolving some of the issues and some of the challenges that we currently face in our school district. I know that school board races are nonpartisan, and they should be, but I think we've all learned in the last couple of years that it's important to know the ideology of the people that we are electing to sit on the board at every level of government, regardless of political party. I have a conservative ideology. If you see some of the materials that I brought here tonight, that I do teach in a doctoral program. I teach in a school leadership program at Columbia University. Please do not jump to judgment. I am probably one of the only conservative professors there, but I am a conservative, and that is my ideology. I've been a conservative my entire adult life. I think I can help as far as the issue of that was brought up about from John about the 3-minute
citizen input.
Yeah, business input or visitor input rather. When I was on the school board, and I think I told you I served as a school board member in my hometown for 14 years. 6 of those 14 years I was board president. And I had the authority to suspend with any 3-minute rule. And my perspective has always been, do not silence dissenting voices. You need to hear those dissenting voices. You need to hear all voices. And I never cut anyone off. I suspended with the 3-minute rule, and I let people talk. And I let people get it out. I let them get their ideas and their feelings out. And I would continue to do that as a school board member. So vote for me, August 23rd, District 1. And I will tell you, after hearing everyone up here, we're going to be in good hands, regardless of who winds up on the board.